This video is brought to you by Squarespace, the quick and easy way to build a kick-ass website. What's up, guys? So today marks the launch of NVIDIA's GTX 1050 and GTX 1050 Ti, a pair of entry-level graphics cards aimed at gamers on a budget. Now, the GTX 1050 retails for just $109 USD, but today we're actually going to be focusing on the $139 GTX 1050 Ti, because that's the one NVIDIA sent me for review. Yay! Unlike the existing Pascal cards, NVIDIA has chosen not to produce a reference design or Founders Edition for these cards, instead reserving all their inventory for their board partners. So today I'll be testing out the Ti model from the team over at MSI. With a sub $150 price point, the GTX 1050 Ti is positioned to compete directly with AMD's RX 460, and both of these cards are aiming to capture the budget gaming market, which has been largely dominated by NVIDIA's Maxwell-based GTX 750 Ti for the last few years. Now, assuming the performance of the 1050 Ti is comparable to that of the RX 460, we can expect it to provide comfortable 1080p gaming at modest quality settings or potentially higher settings for esports games like Dota 2 and CSGO. From a quick look at the specs, we can see the 1050 Ti is using a new ASIC with a GP107 GPU, sporting 768 CUDA cores, 48 texture units, 32 ROP units, a base and boost clock of 1290 and 1392 MHz respectively, a memory clock of 3504 MHz, and 4 gigs of GDDR5 on a 128-bit bus, offering 112 gigabytes a second of memory bandwidth. Also check out that 75-watt TDP. The low thermal design power explains why our MSI card here lacks a PCIe connector, as it receives all the juice it needs straight from the motherboard's PCIe slot. Granted, we can expect there to be some board partner variants with an add-on PCIe connector for increased stability and headroom when overclocking. The dual slot card itself measures 7 inches long and features a plastic black and white open shroud, which comes fitted with a single fan that blows downward onto a small pipeless heatsink in order to move heat away from the GPU. Slap all of that onto a black PCB and bam! There's your graphics card. It's a simple, no-frills design, but it doesn't look half bad for the money spent. Video outs include one dual-link DVI, HDMI, and DisplayPort, allowing users to connect 3 simultaneous displays. The display engine, however, is capable of driving additional panels, so board partners will have the option to release models with 4 or more video outputs should they wish. For testing, I installed the card in Elixir, my sexy silver PC, which you can check out the video of in case you missed it. The rig houses a Core i5-6600K, overclocked to 4.5 GHz on an MSI Z170A gaming titanium with 16 gigs of Corsair Domplatz DDR4 at 3000 MHz. In MSI Afterburner, I was able to punch in a 220 MHz offset on the GPU core clock and 350 MHz on the memory clock, landing our max GPU clock speed at 1911 MHz. Though this quickly averaged out to the low 1700s. GPU temps were very tame all the while, never topping 63 degrees Celsius in our testing. All benchmarks were run at 1920 by 1080, which is the suitable resolution here, on Windows 10 with the latest NVIDIA Press driver version 375.57. Sadly, I don't have an RX 460 on hand, so I wasn't able to pit both cards head-to-head for this video, but let me know in the comments if a showdown between these two cards is something you'd like to see. Now, once we fire up the benchmark slides, be sure to keep a close eye on the quality settings at the bottom of the screen, as you'll notice I haven't maxed out everything like I usually do. This time around, I lowered the graphics until we saw playable frame rates in the 50s and up, so the quality settings listed represent the highest graphical parameters that the card was able to run at comfortably. This should also better depict the kind of gaming experience we're to expect from this card. So with all that said, here are the gaming benchmarks for our overclocked MSI GTX 1050 Ti. Alrighty then, so breaking down the results here and wrapping things up, out of the 7 games we tested, which were all AAA titles mind you, the GTX 1050 Ti was able to run 3 of them at ultra settings, which is quite frankly more than I was expecting. The remaining 4 games had to be turned down to medium or high settings in order to be playable, though we escaped the low presets entirely, greatly reducing our risk of consolitis. Now, given how the card performed in my intensive suite of titles, it's also probably safe to say that all the big esports games of today will run beautifully on the 1050 Ti at 1080p as well. Overall, this card does pack in some decent value that creates a very low barrier to entry for PC gaming for those short on cash, and I would imagine it'll be one of the new popular choices for the modern budget gamer as well. I, for one, am already anxiously awaiting all of those awesome console killers that will be built around this capable little card. Speaking of capable, have you guys heard the good news about Squarespace? The site helps you build your dream website quickly and easily just by clicking on things. Hell, it's easier than Hotline running Minesweeper. There's a ton of templates to get you started, and from there you can go wild by designing a unique page that looks completely your own. If you don't think you need a website, you're wrong. Choosing Squarespace was the best decision of my life, and it can be yours too. Click the link in the description below and use offer code BITWIT for a 10% discount to start building a cool website today. I would suggest a better alternative to YouTube. While you're down there, don't forget to toss me a like on this video if you enjoyed it. Also, feel free to check out my store, where you can pick up my new super snuggly CPU cooler sweater just in time for those winter ambient temps. As always, I'm Cal. Wow! Thank you guys for watching. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and I will see you all in the next video.